Yes. So we are recording because quite a few cannot come, and then they will look at it afterwards. We begin again with Shantideva's invocation of Manjughosha. So that you can all recite along, I will share the screen. Ideally, eventually, you will know this by heart. I'll say it very slowly. Manjughosham namasyami yat prasadat matishubhe kalyana mitram vandeham yat prasadat chavardhate. I'll say it 2 more times. Manjughosham namasyami yat prasadat matishubhe kalyana mitram vandeham yat prasadat chavardhate. Manjughosham namasyami yat prasadat matishubhe kalyana mitram vandeham yat prasadat chavardhate. So welcome to the second session. My request to everybody is always to let go of their fear of Sanskrit. I think historically for thousands of years, people have just been afraid of it for no reason. It is very, very structured, very logical, very simple really. Much more simple than languages like French or Chinese for that matter. I've studied many languages and Sanskrit is very simple and straightforward. So I want to start by asking if somebody would like to dare or to try to suggest what case this could be. Manjughosham. You can just unmute yourself and...
It looks like accusative.
Yes, very good, exactly. Because it is the object of namasyami. Namasyami, as you will learn today, all verbs ending in ami means I. So namasyami means I pay homage, I bow to. And to whom do I bow? Manjughosham. So he is the object. And then would somebody like to try what is the case of prasadat? Ideally, you have the sheets with the cases in front of you that we had gone through last time. If you remember, buddhat was the ablative. So prasadat, I don't know why this keeps going so strange. It keeps becoming capital, but I think we just need to accept it. So, sorry, we go back to the first verse. So this is the ablative. And the ablative case, the fifth case, in Sanskrit expresses due to or because of something. If you look here, from whom or from what? It marks the source or the cause. We had the example, sadhaka bodhicittat nirvanam avapnoti, that the spiritual practitioner attains nirvana due to or from bodhicitta. So similarly here, we have prasadat, and prasada means grace. It's very interesting that very often in Buddhist studies, people say there is no idea of grace in Buddhism. I've heard this many times, but it's very strange because even in the invocation verses of Shantideva and many masters, the word grace is right there, prasada. So I always get I hope it's okay for all of you, if we do this in a humorous way always. I always get, yeah, like a little shock, sort of my hair stand on end when I hear such statements, because it's really just based on not knowing Sanskrit. Because anybody who would know Sanskrit would see it's right there in the verse, as you can see yourself, right? So it's the fifth case. Yat means whose. That, don't worry, that's a bit too far yet for your grammar knowledge, but I just want to give you some basic idea here. So prasadat, yat prasadat, by whose grace. So I pay homage to Manju Ghosha, by whose grace. And then, what do you think? What case is mati? From the ending point of view, if we go to our charts, Buddha, Deva. Today I will teach you how to read more charts. Like this chart you didn't have last time. I'll teach you how to read that. But here you can see the ah, when the sound, the ah is there, it is always the first case. It's always the subject. What or who? And mati, I have translated here as mind, like mana. One could also translate it as attitude, mental state, the mental condition. It's quite a flexible word. So I pay homage to Manju Ghosha, by whose grace the mind is in what or where? It is shubhe. Sorry, I'm going here because I read it in the Sanskrit, but shubhe.
Is locative.
Exactly, locative. In the shubha. Does anyone have a guess what shubha could be? Well, you see it here in the translation, but sometimes Tujum Lingpa and many great Dzogchen masters and Buddhist masters and other masters also, they end their dharmas with iti shubham or shubham bhuyat. Any idea? Of course, you see it right here in the translation, but still, it is good if it comes from you.
Auspicious.
Yes, the auspicious. It's right there. Right? Shubha means the auspicious. And then shubhe, as the gentleman said, is the locative. So it answers the question, where is something? It is in or on the auspicious. And this is how Sanskrit works. There is no further verb needed here. Because when there is no verb in an additional sentence, we just supply the word is. Yeah, you learn slowly how brilliant this is and how it allows us to make short statements and still understand them very clearly. So here we would supply the word asti. Asti means is, like est in Latin, to make it a bit more flexible. Can somebody tell me what is in Polish, for instance? I see that Tomasz is here. He didn't, or in French. Right? So asti, you can see the connection, how close. Yeah, it is.
EST. It's like EST. It's very close to ASTI.
Exactly, right? So you can see how close these languages are related. And here, of course, this verse was composed by Shantideva approximately in the 7th century. So it's about 1,300 years old. But you will find 4,000-year-old verses in India where the same asti is there. Yeah, so you can see how ancient. So I pay homage to Manju Ghosha, by whose grace, or due to whose grace, the mind is on the auspicious. or in the auspicious. It's quite clear. And then Kalyana Mitram. So Kalyana Mitra is a Buddhist word for guru. It means the friend for Kalyana. Kalyana is again a synonym for auspiciousness, but I will explain to you in a moment what it really means. It's beautiful. But for now, Mitra means friend, and Kalyana Mitra is the friend for auspiciousness. It means the guru. But what case is it here?
We have again, so accusative again, maybe.
Exactly. Again, accusative, right? So why? Because it is now the object of the verb vande. And those of Indian origin, you will know that in India, currently there is a song of the nation which is Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram. Mataram is the mother. Accusative, and Vande means to salute, to pay, again, to pay obeisance, to salute. Yeah, so Kalyana Mitram Vande. Somebody is, I think if I mute you, then there is, maybe when you speak, you can unmute yourself because there's some echo otherwise. Yeah? So, Kalyana Mitram Vande simply means I salute the Kalyana Mitra. Salute is not in the military sense. Yeah, it is, we can use a different word. We can say I greet, would be just as fine. I greet. Yeah, I greet the Kalyana Mitra. And then here, this is, I'll explain later. This is actually aham, but there's a thing called sandhi, which I will begin to explain today, where this a falls away and is just hum. So I salute the Kalyana Mitra, or I greet the Kalyana Mitra, and now you have the repetition of Yat Prasadat. So just, I know it's like in the kindergarten, but still let us ask again, what case is it? Because it's important that you know. If you knew,
Ablative.
it's also ablative, exactly, ablative. By whose grace or due to whose grace? Cha means and as in the Latin, que, famously when Caesar was assassinated, he said to his son, to Brutus, he famously said, tu quoque. Tu is tvam in Sanskrit. Quoque is the cha, que, the cha. Tu quoque, fili, you too, son. So this is the same as que. Tvam cha, it would be in Sanskrit, right? And by whose grace? Or rather, and I salute the Guru, by whose grace vardhati, it grows or it increases. Now, we will soon conclude this verse, don't worry, and I know that not all of you are understanding everything. I know that, but that's the part of the learning process, yeah, is to hear something you don't understand, and then slowly you will begin to understand. So vardhate is the verb. It means it grows. What is the subject of this verb? If I ask what grows, what is the it that is being referred to? Then we need to ask, what is the nominative in this whole verse? So now I will show you, this is the accusative, yeah? This is the ablative. This is the nominative. This is the ablative. This is the accusative. This is a nominative because it refers to vande, aham. This is the ablative. The cha is not declined. And then this is the verb. So what do you think is the subject of this verb? Who grows or what grows? I mean, it's written in the translation, but nonetheless.
The grace.
No, not
No.
the grace. Because it is because of the grace that it grows. But what is the it?
Me, I.
No, it.
No.
It's actually in the translation below. So look, if I write it here,
It should be.
yes, it is the auspicious. However, we could also say that instead of the auspicious, we could say the mind. Manjukosham namasyami. I pay homage to Manjukosha, by whose grace the mind is in the auspicious. I greet the Guru, by whose grace it increases or it grows, means it progresses. In German, we would say es gedeiht. We have a beautiful word for that. Es gedeiht. Does anyone have an idea how to translate gedeiht into English?
Expanses.
Expands, yeah. So here we have many meanings. Expands, increases, and then another translation is develops. These are all synonyms in Sanskrit. Vardhati, it has all these meanings. So, and I salute the Guru by whose grace it, the mind, grows, expands, increases, develops. So now you have seen quite a high level analysis of a verse. Now I'm going to liberate you from this high level and will take you back to the more kind of easy. We talked about various verbs a little bit last time. I gave you, where are they? Here. I gave you a list of useful verbs in the present tense, but I gave them to you only in the third person. Asti we already had. Bhavati, patati, vadati, gridati, jvalati, hasati, etc. What you haven't learned last time is how to say, instead of just he, she, it goes, how to say I go or you go. That's what I really want to teach you today. So this analysis of the verse was just to show you, to give you a little bit of a, like where we are going. That was, don't think if you didn't understand everything, don't think, oh dear, I will never learn that. Don't worry, you will. So now you see here, we have gacchati, to go, not only in the third person, gacchati, but also in the second person, which is you go, gacchasi, and then in the first person, I go, gacchami. And then we also have the plural, gacchanti, they go, gacchata, you go in the plural, means if there are several people you are talking to, and then we go, gacchama. Now the French speakers, what is the typical ending when you say you are doing something in a French verb? Maybe Estelle.
It's a S. We finish with the S.
It always finishes with an S. Now look at this. The same S is here. Yeah? So this is called Indo-European. Yeah, this is the old Indo-European S. Now the German speakers among you, sind, right? Sie sind. Think of the ending ND that we still have in German sometimes. Sie sind in the plural. English, of course, is quite... English has become quite simple. That's why these endings are no longer so much there in English. Yeah. So, but what you have here is a dual as well. Dual is something no other language except ancient Greek still has. Gacchataha means the two are going. Gacchataha means the two of you are going, and gacchavaha means the two of us are going. Why do you think Sanskrit, one of the oldest living languages or continuously used languages in the world, has a dual? Let us discuss this a bit. What could the reason be? I don't know about some of the Slavic languages. I only know the Indo-European, kind of more towards the Germanic and then Latin and Greek. Maybe Tomasz and others will correct me. Maybe Polish and Russian have a dual. I might be wrong. But Tomasz, do you still have a dual? I cannot hear you. I think you have to put a different microphone.
Oh.
Yes, now we
Yes.
hear you.
Okay. No, unfortunately, we don't have it anymore.
Okay.
So we probably miss it.
Right. So somebody suggests in the chat, the reason for a dual could be the eyes and the hands. Yeah, that's a very good idea. Very true. Mm-hmm. But there's one more idea. There's one more reason.
The opposite of me.
Very good. Exactly, Liz. The opposite of me is that there is another, and that's two. So for ancient human beings, it was quite intuitive that there is not just me and then many. Right? There is me, and then there is the other. Therefore, there are two. And then come the many. So for an ancient Sanskritist, it would be strange that we don't have a dual anymore. They would think, what happened? Did the relationship stop? So there's only me and then many? Right? So that's what they would think. And it's a very interesting point to contemplate. Yeah? So the dual. Now, eventually, my dears, I would love it if you learn these 9 words by heart. It is not a big thing. My son learned it in 2 minutes. Gacchati, gacchataha, gacchanti. Gacchasi, gacchataha, gacchata. Gacchami, gacchavaha, gacchamaha. And I will put it as a recording in the group, don't worry. Why by heart? Because if you know it by heart, you will recognize the word when you see it in a text or when you hear it in a text. Otherwise, you will have all the time, if you are trying to understand or to read a text, you'll all the time have to go to the charts when you see a verb. Let me ask you now. Has anyone heard the word gacchami in any context?
Yes. Mostly in the Hinayana, the Theravada Buddhism, I heard very often.
Yes, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, isn't it? And then Buddham is the accusative. Sharanam is also the accusative, because you see, Sharanam means refuge, and it is a neuter word. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami simply means I go for refuge to the Buddha. But if you have never learned the ending Gacchami, and you hear the word or the sentence Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, you will have to take your PowerPoint presentation, which you have, and then you will have to go through it and you will have to see, oh my goodness, this gacchami, gaccha, it is a verb. Let me see what ending this verb is. And then you will see the ending ami. You will see it is the first person, so it means I go, right? So that, then you are like I'm saying this humorously, not arrogantly, then you're like an Indologist at the University of Zurich. They never learned this by heart. So then they go through their charts, and we Sanskritists, we just think, how is this possible? This person earns a salary of a banker, but doesn't know Gachami, right? So really, so that makes no sense. Yeah, that's why just learn it by heart. It is not a problem. And there are studies, I will also share this in the group if it's interesting for you. There's a study by an Italian academic that people who learn Sanskrit words by heart increase their memory power. It's not pseudoscience. It's a real study by an Italian academic on this. And it's something to do with the sound, something to do with neuroscience, of course. But it is in your benefit if you learn this by heart. Yeah? So I will demonstrate. Gacchati, gacchataha, gachanti. Gacchasi, gacchataha, gacchata. Gacchami, gacchavaha, gacchama. Now, one more interesting question. Why does Sanskrit begin with the third person when we recite this? Because every other language, even Latin, video, vides, videt, videmus, videtis, vidunt. You can still see videunt, videunt. You still see the endings are the same, right? In Latin. Amor, amas, amat, amamus, amatis, amunt. Amant, my goodness, my Latin. So the endings are still the same, but why does Latin begin here? And look at German. Ich gehe, du gehst, geht. Wir gehen, ihr geht, sie gehen. Why does everyone begin here, but Sanskrit begins here and ends with the first person? What could be the reason? Just culturally, think culturally.
Maybe I've got such a
Yeah.
idea that maybe our mindset is more focused on us.
Exactly. Yeah. So the mindset is more individualistic and starts with me and goes to the other. And here it starts with the others and goes back to oneself. Exactly. Excellent. Yeah, so there's much to learn, right, in Sanskrit, not only grammar. Yeah, there's much to learn. So now, if you see, I have to share the screen. If you see now the verb list that you also have, and of course you will get this new version of the slide with all this updated information. If you now look at the verb list, bhavati, patati, vadati, kridati, jvalati, all these verbs are done exactly in the same way. Sometimes shrinoti is a bit different, but the endings are still the same. Shrinomi, for instance. Dadami, I give. So gacchami means I go. Dadami, I give. Pibami, I drink. Ichchami, I want. Pashyami, I see. Karomi is again like Shrinomi. Little different from the others, but very similar. Nrityami, I dance. Vasami, I dwell. Hasami, I laugh. Khadami, I eat. Dhavami, I run. Jvalami, I burn. Kridami, I play. Vadami, I speak. Patami, I fall or fly. Bhavami, I am or I become. And then avapnomi is again like Shrinomi and Karomi. Little different, but very similar. So here you see how you can already use all these words. This is not like French. Our poor children in Switzerland, they have to learn French. This is not like French, where it's every verb is different. No. This is all the same, yeah, in Sanskrit. That's why I cannot accept when somebody said Sanskrit is difficult. You just need to learn one verb, and then you know it for every verb. Yeah, so it's just really not difficult. So now, if you go to our word lists, you'll have all this today in your new version. Shishyah acharyam gacchati. You have the word lists. Acharyam should be quite easy because I think you know that acharya means teacher. Shishyah, you have in your word list here. Somewhere it should be Shishyah. See? Shishyah is a student. Very literally, it is somebody who is to be taught. So Sanskrit is very detailed. No word just means something. It always has a detailed explanation. So shish means to teach, and shishyah is somebody who is to be taught. So therefore a student. Shishyah acharyam gacchati. But we need to really be very precise now. What case? And I know this is the boring thing. The Sanskritists with their cases. Oh, but you see, the cases mean precision. If you are just guessing what the sentence means, if you're just guessing, that's not Sanskrit. Sanskrit is very precise. Yeah, so how do we do that? We mark the word with a number, the case. We mark it with the case. I'll show you. This is the ancient practice. Yeah, this is not our new invention. We mark the word with the case. And how? Well, we put here, for example, we can put number 1 here, and then try to make it a bit small, not big. But somehow I'm using the wrong one. Anyway, you kind of understand, I want to put it above, right? Shishyah is the first case. Now again, you should already know this, but what case is acharyam? I know it's boring, but this is the beauty of it also. And you will also experience a strange phenomenon that when we do this well, this identifying of the cases, somehow it has an effect on the mind. There's something strange. After a Sanskrit class of identifying cases, the mind is very clear. Because language is consciousness. And when consciousness is clearly structured in the cases, the mind becomes clear. There is something to it. It's very mysterious. So, Shishyah acharyam gacchati. Would someone like to translate?
I will try it.
Yes?
I think student goes to the teacher.
Exactly. Perfect. Then the next sentence, Shishyah, is obviously the same case and the same word as before. I need to find some way to do this in a simpler way. But the next word is a word that you seemingly don't know. Shraddhaya. So when we don't know a word or we're not sure of a word, we have to think first, what case ending is it? And this is the new thing you are learning today. These are the charts. Buddha, Buddham, right? All that you have. Buddha, 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 Buddham, Buddha, Buddhan, Buddhena, Buddhabhyam, Buddhehi, Buddhaya, Buddhabhyam, Buddhebhya, Buddhat, Buddhabhyam, Buddhebhya, Buddhasya, Buddhayoh, Buddhanam, Buddhe, Buddhayoh, Buddheshu. That you already learned last time. Not the dual and not the plural. You only learned the singular last time. Now, what you didn't learn last time was the feminine ending words. Maya, maye, mayaha, mayam, maye, mayaha. Mayaya. Aha. Mayaya. Look at the ending. And please remember, this never changes. Yeah? Once you know one R ending word, 100 or 200 or 300,000 words in Sanskrit end in the same way. It's not like in French. Yeah, it's identical. So now we go to our sentence, Shraddhaya. Mayaya and Shraddhaya. So you would first then think, what case is it? And what would you say based on the chart?
Instrumental.
Exactly, it's instrumental. And if you know that Shraddhaya is instrumental, then you can find out what the word is.
Faith.
It means faith. But when I say the word, I mean first the Sanskrit word. And how do you do that? If Mayaya comes from Maya, then Shraddhaya comes from
Shraddha.
Shraddha, right? And then all we need to do is, I will never give you sentences here for which you don't have the words, yeah? You will always have the words. Then you go, aha, it is Shraddha in your list of words, and then you know it means faith. Is this clear? It's quite simple, really. Is it clear to everybody? And please don't feel ashamed if it's not clear. I want to remind you of my first ever Sanskrit lesson. I was 12 years old, and my acharya went through 1 hour of grammar, and I still remember the note. I have that book somewhere. I show this to people sometimes. It's right here somewhere. I can't find it right now. I made, oh no, here it is. Look, here it is. This is my Sanskrit grammar book. Yeah? Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi. It means the moonlight of the principles of grammar in the small version. Okay? This is old, huh? This is really old, this book. Right? This is older than... And all I remarked here, this is the goddess Saraswati, and there's a verse here, and I knew how to write Sanskrit, and I wrote by Brahma. That means this verse was composed by Brahma. That's all I understood in my entire first Sanskrit lesson. I didn't understand anything else he said, except that this verse is composed by Brahma, addressing Saraswati. So please never feel ashamed, yeah, if you don't understand something. It makes no sense if you don't ask. So someone asks, how does one identify which word is feminine, masculine, and neuter? It's quite straightforward. It is not like in German. The Germans are crazy. The table is masculine, der Tisch, but the flower is feminine? What? Right? So German really, something went wrong in the German mind. This is not like in German. This is straightforward, clear. I'll try to show you. And these are the kind of questions you should be asking. So you will see that masculine ending words always end with ah. There are also e ending masculine words like money, and there are u ending masculine words like guru. But 90% of Shakya Muni also, for instance, but 90% of masculine Sanskrit words end in ah. Very simple. Feminine words will end in a long ah or a long e. 90% of Sanskrit feminine words will end in a long ah or a long e. Think of yogini, yeah? Prajna, shunyata. And then there are a few that end in i, ihi. And here I admit, okshantihi, for instance, here I admit that to the inexperienced Sanskrit person, to the student, that means to you, I admit that it would look the same as manihi. I admit that. Manihi, however, is a masculine one. So I admit that there you might have some issue, but not if you learn Sanskrit grammar properly. Because if you learn it properly, you will know that Kshantihi, Shaktihi, Bodhihi, the Dhi of Bodhi actually has an invisible Ti in it. You will learn, or you would know, Shantihi, that this is a suffix, Ti, and that this suffix always produces a feminine word. Yeah, you will know that. And therefore you will know automatically, this is a feminine E ending word. So it is not like in French where you somehow have to guess, or where you have to check the dictionary. So, but for you to feel relaxed, just remember for now this much. 90% of feminine Sanskrit words end in long R and long E. And then 90% of neuter Sanskrit words end in Nirvanam. Okay, karma is an exception, but dukkham, shilam, viryam, dhyanam, yanam, etc., etc. And then, of course, there are a few other words like karma that is also neuter, but because the word karma comes from the stem karman, and karman becomes karma in the first case. So this is an exception. Otherwise, this is what you can remember. And as a student for now, this is more than enough for you to understand that 90% of neuter words end in M, 90% of masculine words end in aha, and 90% of feminine words end in E and in A. Is that clear to the questioner? Okay, so we come back to our sentences. Shishya Shraddhaya Vadati. Now clearly you see that Vadati is a different verb. As long as you haven't learned your verbs yet, what would you do? You would go to the verb chart and you would find it here. Aha. It means he, she, it speaks. If you have learned your verbs, you will of course know that. And Shraddhaya is now which case? We have identified that it is the instrumental case of the word Shraddha, and that Shraddha means faith. But what does the word therefore mean? That I want to ask you.
With faith.
With faith, exactly. Very simple and clear cut. So, and now would somebody like to translate the whole sentence?
A student speaks with faith.
Exactly. I want to ask the others who maybe are not speaking, is this clear to you? Or is it not clear to somebody? Because if there is somebody to whom it's not clear, so Marco says out of faith. Yes, absolutely. However, Marco, out of faith would be more of a cause, rather than a with. And Marco, if you paid close attention, which case do we use when the cause is being referred to? Do you remember? Then we would more use the source or the cause, which would be the ablative. Whereas the instrumental is by whom and with what. Whereas the cause is from what, out of what, source or cause. And that would be a slightly different emphasis, isn't it? We would therefore then not say Shraddhaya, we would say Shraddhaya. It is faith that is causing him to ask, or is he asking or speaking with faith? Do you all see the slight difference in that? Yeah? Is he asking with faith, or is faith the cause that is making him ask? Is this difference clear to you? Yeah. So you see that why Nagarjuna, all the great masters, it's all Sanskrit, because Sanskrit has this detail, yeah, this distinction. Everything has causes and effects, and we have it in the language. Great. So, what does the student say with faith? He says, He Acharya. He is like a Ausrufe. It is like addressing somebody. Hey, like in English. But not hey, it is more he. It is kind of oh Acharya. And now you see here, Acharya has no case ending. That is why we call this the vocative. Addressing somebody, He Buddha. And those of you who read the Heart Sutra or other sutra literature in Sanskrit, you will now already recognize Ananda, Shariputra. Endlessly, Bodhisattva, Mahasattva. Endlessly these words are repeated in the sutras. They are all in the vocative. O Shariputra, O Ananda, listen, I will tell you. Yeah? But in Sanskrit, traditional Sanskrit grammar, we don't call this a case. There are only 7 cases. We simply call this the vocative. We don't consider it a case. Whereas other grammars in the world would also call this a case. And if we would call it a case, there would then be 8 cases. But no Sanskritist in ancient history would say there are 8 cases. Yeah, there is no Ashtami Vibhakti. There is no 8th case. There are only 7. But here, He Acharya, O Acharya, Aham Bodhim Gatam Avapnomi. Now for those who have no knowledge of the vocabulary, you would have to rush to your vocabulary. Bodhi, but here it says Bodhim. What case would it be? I know it's very repetitive, but that's what we do. Anyone?
It's mostly when it's accusative.
It has to be accusative, right? Because bodhi is the word, so it has to be accusative. The second case is the object. So it means enlightenment. Aham. We had aham. I told you aham in our Manjushri verse. Kalyana mitram vande aham. It means I. It is the source of the Latin word ego. Look how close. An H and a G are sometimes very close. Aham, ego. Yeah? Just think of eho, ego. Yeah? It's the same word, but not in the negative sense. It just means I. Ego, video in Latin means I see. Aham is the same word as ego. It is in fact the source also of the German word ich. The ich is the H of aham. Yeah? Ich. And in fact, it is the source of the English word I. Yeah, because ich still has the H of aham, and the English people are very lazy, right? So it just removes the ich, and then you have the I. So I directly is related to aham. It means I. And in your charts that you will receive in today's handout, you will have the full declination, means you will have everything that you need to know about aham. But that we're not going to practice now, just you will have it. Aham, I, vayam, we. And look at it, vayam, we. Vayam, there it is. It's the source of the word we. Vayam, we. Wir in German. Yeah. The accusative of it would be mam, ma, me in English. Me. Look how close, yeah? It's very important that you see these connections, okay? But for today, you only need to know aham means I. He Acharya, aham bodhim gatam avapnomi. Now gatam, this is a tricky one, because you might think it's an accusative because it ends in an M, or you might think it's a neuter word because it ends in an M. That is only because you wouldn't have looked at the list of question words. Question words in Sanskrit always begin with a K. There are many, many, many more. I'm only giving you 2 today. Even as English question words always or very often begin with a WH. Who, when, what, where. And German question words always begin with a W. Wo, wir, wann, wie, wann, wer. Latin question words always begin with a Q and a U, like the Sanskrit K. Quid, quomodo, qui. Right? So remember, all Sanskrit question words begin with a K. Gatam, gim, gena, etc., etc., etc. This list will become bigger and bigger, obviously. Yeah. So for now, just gatam, how. And then we had in the sentence the verb avapnomi. Those who have been paying close attention, you will see that the mi ending is not the same as the di ending. Avapnomi, you would therefore know, is related to gachami. Yeah, so you would be learning these endings as well. And wherever you see the mi ending in a verb, you will know, this is me, right? So, and avapnomi, if you don't know the verb, you would go to your verb list. Avapnoti, he, she, it obtains or attains. Avapnomi therefore means I attain. He Acharya, aham bodhim gatam avapnomi. Now, would someone like to translate?
My teacher, how I obtain enlightenment.
Exactly.
How do I? Yeah.
In English, we would say, how do I? Exactly. Excellent. And those who have forgotten from last time, you might be wondering about the sentence structure, right? Because it says, O teacher, I enlightenment how obtain. Now in English, we would say, how gatam, how do I attain enlightenment, right? Gatamaham avapnomi bodhim. And you might ask, can we also say it like that? Yes, that's the beauty of Sanskrit, because the cases are so clear. You can turn it around, no problem. Gatamaham avapnomi bodhim. He Acharya. Right? You can put him at the end, no problem. Gatamaham he Acharya avapnomi bodhim. Gatam bodhim avapnomi he Acharya aham. No problem. Just keep the he with the Acharya. That's good. Or you can remove the he also, because acharya just means teacher, but it's more polite to add the he. You can say, he acharya, aham bodhim avapnomi katham. Aham he acharya, bodhim avapnomi katham. Avapnomi katham aham he acharya bodhim. No problem. No problem whatsoever to change the sentence structure. And you will see this if you study the sutras, the Prajnaparamita sutras, which these Nagas revealed to Nagarjuna thousands of verses. It's incredible. The Ashta Sahasrika Prajnaparamita is 8,000 verses, and that's the small version. There's also a 60,000 verse one. And you know, scholars used to think, academics, as always, Western scholars, they always think, these Asians, they just exaggerate. So they used to say, oh, no, these are just stories, until they found it. And there it was, 60,000 verses. And if you look at those verses, the sentence structure is always upside down. It's just spontaneously flowing. So sometimes it'll be this way around, sometimes it'll be that way around. So that's why it's important that you understand this. Yeah. So we still have a few seconds or minutes. Acharya vadati. This should be very easy now. Because you understood Shishya vadati, then you should understand Acharya vadati. Would someone like to translate?
The teacher speaks.
Exactly. And what does he say? Shunyata jnanena, or jnanena. And this is now, I will address this question of yours, Liz Chimilamo, which you put by email. But first, just the grammar. Shunyata jnanena. This is called a compound, and compositum. German people have a lot of composita in German. Kindergarten, which is also in English, right? A garden for the children is called a kindergarten. And we have very long composita also. Mississippi Dampfschifffahrtsgesellschaftskapitän, right? Which is the captain of the Association of Ships of the Mississippi, right? That's one word in German. But the language with the largest compounds in the world is, of course, Sanskrit. It's in the Guinness Book of Records even that some very eccentric scholar, Pandit in Benares, in India, made a compound describing the beauty of Benares. What else? Because that's where he lives. And it is a single compound, and the one compound has, I believe, more than 15,000 words. To describe just the beauty of the place where he lives. I hope he didn't write that from ego. So I hope it was from devotion. I'm just joking. But so Sanskrit, Guhya Garbha Tantra, this is up there. The Tantra of the secret womb. Guhya, secret. Garbha, womb. Tantra means Tantra. Guhya Garbha Tantra. Right? Prajna Paramita Sutram, the sutra of the paramita, the perfection of prajna, wisdom, right? This is called a compound. I am sure the Polish people and the Russians have not lost the power to make compounds. Tomasz, I'm sure you have compounds.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there are some words.
It is only the English. The English, for some reason, felt, let us stop our power to make compounds and let us just put the words next to each other without any grammatical connection. And I have the eccentric joking theory, that's why English was so successful in the world, because of this simplification. Yeah, so sort of. In any case, shunyata jnanena is a compound. You probably know both words, but what case is jnanena? In order to identify the case, you have to first go to the word, or the other way around. Jnanam is a neuter word, knowledge. In your charts that you will receive today, you will have all the ways of how to have a neuter word, all the cases. Dukkham, jnanam is the same. Jnanena is which case?
Instrumental.
Instrumental. It's the third case. And then shunyata jnanena obviously means what?
Knowledge of emptiness.
Yes, but then with the case, the third case?
By knowledge of
by the knowledge of emptiness. So the teacher says or speaks by the knowledge of emptiness. So the student goes to the teacher, the student speaks or says with faith, "O teacher, how do I attain enlightenment?" The teacher says, by the knowledge of emptiness. That's how Sanskrit works. Yeah, and the language, or what we have learned today, is not significantly less difficult than, for instance, the language you will find in the sutras. Really, I'm serious about that. It's not significantly less difficult. So if you open the sutras, if you knew the vocabulary of the sutras, like the Heart Sutra or whatever, if you knew the vocabulary, you would suddenly go, "Oh, there is the case, there's the case, there's the case, there's the case." And you would put it all together, and it's like you would start to understand 30%, 40% of it already, because it's not far away from what we've done. And now remember, this is your second Sanskrit class. Yeah, so that shows you it is an easy language, not a difficult one. Now, I promised you before finishing that I would tell you the special meaning of the word kalyana, so that you begin to also see how intricate Sanskrit is. We come back to the verse. You see, in English, the word auspicious, we just say auspicious. We don't think anymore. Where does the word come from? Auspices, the Latin, a sign. So auspicious is related to good signs. We just think in English, it just means auspicious. Or similarly, the word grace. We don't think that it comes from gratia, the Latin gratia, which is related actually to gratitude. But the Sanskrit prasada has, I'm not going to tell you the meaning of prasada, that's taking it far. It's like the prefix is pra, the root is sad. Sad means to sit. Yeah, the English word sit and sitzen is related to sad. And pra is related to pro in Greek. Pro, something proactive. Yeah, prasad. But I will not take you there. I want to explain to you kalyana. Because we have just simply translated Kalyana Mitra, or generally Indologists and so on, or Tibetologists, they will just say the auspicious friend. That's it, right? They will not tell you where the word friend comes from in Sanskrit, and they will not tell you where the word Kalyana comes from, right? I don't know if we still have sufficient time for me also to explain to you where friend comes from. I think we'll do it next time, but Kalyana for now. Kalya and Ana are actually two words. Ana just means sound, and Kalya is related to the morning. Kalyana means the sound of the morning. What is the sound of the morning? It is the sound of birds, the auspicious sound that we experience in the early morning when the sun rises, and also before the sunrise, when the birds come out, and the freshness and lightness of the morning atmosphere. That is the meaning of the word Kalyana. Therefore, it is not just the same as Shubha, which also means auspicious, and Mangala, which also means auspicious in English. Because each word, Shubha has a different sense of auspicious. Mangala has a completely different sense. Mangala and Kalyana are both translated as auspicious, but have a completely different meaning. Kalyana is the auspiciousness of the morning, the first experience, the atmosphere of the morning. Now, why is the Guru the Kalyana Mitra and not the Mangala Mitra? Why is he not the Shubha Mitra? He could be, but he is the Kalyana Mitra, because the Guru's knowledge and wisdom provides the awakening that we experience in the morning as the sun rises. And it is that auspiciousness that the Guru's auspiciousness brings. Any questions? Today we didn't cover Sandhi yet. You will see that in the charts that I hand out. Sandhi means when sounds merge. For instance, A and A become A. So Kalya and Ana becomes Kalyana. That is called Sandhi, merging, which is why Dzogchen is called Mahasandhi, the great merging of what? Of Nirvana and Samsara. Yeah? But the word Sandhi is a grammar word. It means the merging also of sounds. Yeah? So Kalya and Ana becomes Kalyana. You will see Sandhi examples in the charts. We haven't covered them, so today's lesson is finished. But are there any questions? For the questions, maybe I will stop the recording, because sometimes people